If 2018's Monster Hunter World was all about unearthing a new continent as an intrepid frontiersman, then Rise is a triumphant return to the old world with valuable lessons learned. Rise is the first game in the series built from the ground up for Switch. As such, Rise closely follows in the footsteps of World while reneging on some of its changes and introducing plenty of new impactful ideas that excellently shift the focus towards the series' heart-pumping action. The core Monster Hunter gameplay loop has remained relatively unchanged as you hunt down gargantuan monsters, harvest their materials to craft new weapons and armor, and tackle increasingly tougher foes. Rise reverts back to the old ways of splitting village and hub quests. Village quests can only be played alone, while hub quests can still be tackled solo, but are designed with multiple players in mind. This isn't the most welcome setup for newcomers since it isn't immediately clear which quests progress the story, nor is there any indication of whether or not you should be alternating between both paths. The impact this structure has on the game isn't as substantial as it initially seems though. Hunting the same monsters multiple times has always been a big part of Monster Hunter's DNA, so repeating the same missions as both a village and hub quest is something you would typically seek out anyway. That's not to say Rise isn't approachable in other areas either. A renewed focus on fast-paced action strikes an impressive balance between being welcoming for newcomers and satisfying for battle-hardened veterans. When entering a location, for example, your trusty pet Kahoot will mark all of the nearby monsters on your map. You won't immediately know the identity of each one until you've actually discovered them, but this cuts down on the time it takes to seek out your foe and gets you into the heart of the action much faster. It's an ideal fit for the Switch's handheld mode, allowing you to jump in and out of the most thrilling moments without having to engage in the long-winded slog to find and follow a monster's tracks. Exploration is still a key part of the experience, even if you know the exact location of your prey. There are plenty of shortcuts and hidden paths to uncover within each location, and the addition of local wildlife, known as endemic life, encourages you to seek out every nook and cranny in order to gain the temporary buffs to damage output, stamina regeneration, and so on that they offer. If you're not interested in boosting specific stats to get a leg up in battle, you can always ignore the endemic life and tailor the challenge to your liking. Rise offers a degree of flexibility in the way you're able to tackle each monster that goes beyond your choice of weapon and armor. The verticality afforded by the new wire bug mechanic allows you to zip through the air by utilizing wire dashing. From here you can chain moves together, mixing in wall runs with additional wire dashes to reach previously unattainable heights, and traverse the environment at a rapid pace. The finesse it requires takes some getting used to, and you still need to be shrewd with the wire bug's forgiving cooldown to be successful, but it's an incredibly fun tool to use once you're comfortable with its demands. The wire bug also plays an important role in combat, as each of Rise's 14 signature weapons has its own silkbind attack. These unique moves are relatively easy to pull off and range from a timing based counter with the longsword to an uppercut leading to an explosive downward strike with the switch axe. Each silkbind attack can be linked into different combos, opening up your repertoire of potential techniques, and the wire bug expands on this even further with its defensive maneuvers. The evasive wirefall move, for instance, gives you the opportunity to get back on your feet and avoid a monster's follow-up attack after being knocked down or pushed back, while the wire dash extends the reach of your dodge for when you need to quickly evade a rampaging beast. Each of Rise's weapon types have remarkable depth in keeping with the series' traditions. Mastering a particular weapon is just as rewarding as before, and there's also an element of customization available this time around too. The aptly named switch skills allow you to swap out certain regular and silkbind attacks to make a weapon that's reflective of your playstyle and preferences. An improved training area and the reduction in the amount of materials necessary to upgrade a new weapon also makes this aspect of the game more approachable for newcomers who need to experiment in order to find a weapon type that suits them. Stamina and weapon sharpness have also been streamlined thanks to the addition of palamutes. These new dog-like buddies will help you out in combat and can be decked out with weapons that add to Rise's combat depth. And they also act as mounts for you to ride anytime you want. Stamina isn't consumed when you're riding on the back of your trusted palamute, and you can even sharpen your weapon while traversing to give you something productive to do during travel, thus alleviating some of the more time-consuming aspects of Monster Hunter.
Good job, buddy! On to the next one!
Multiplayer is also a hassle-free experience, whether you're playing with a group of friends or with up to 3 strangers. The wait times are relatively short when joining an online hunt, and lag is a non-issue on Nintendo's new online infrastructure. The frame rate holds up too, even when the screen is awash with multiple hunters, particle effects, and the beasts themselves. And this is to say nothing of how good Rise is as a multiplayer game. There's nothing else quite like gathering a party to go and hunt down an imposing adversary, and Rise's new features only add to the inherent joy you can glean from its hectic cooperative action. Not to mention the fact that it gives support-oriented weapons, such as the reworked Hunter Horn, time to shine.
Now I'm getting angry!
There is a basic story that sets all of this up by casting you as Kamura Village's sole hunter, but the narrative is little more than a paper-thin vehicle for introducing Rise's new mechanics and game modes. Chief amongst the latter is the Rampage, a special mission type that requires you to defend a stronghold from waves of ferocious monsters. The Rampage is inspired by Japanese folklore and the Hyakki-yagyo, Night Parade of 100 Demons idiom in particular. This sees an uncontrollable horde of yokai march into our world, and in gameplay terms, the Rampage is similar to a tower defense game, tasking you with placing various hunting installations around each stronghold in order to repel the frenzied invaders. Some of these installations are automatic and manned by NPC companions, while others can be manually controlled. Rampage quests offer a respite from the usual Monster Hunter formula, delivering histrionic thrills as you find yourself bombarded by multiple monsters at once. There's some satisfying depth to it as well, with progression rewarding you with more powerful installations and upgraded weapons. Completing a Rampage quest will reward you with the usual assortment of monster parts, with which to craft weapons and armor. But you're also incentivized to finish them in order to unlock Defender tickets. These can be spent on numerous Rampage skills that permanently boost specific weapon stats such as attack, affinity, and defense. Part of what makes the Rampage so exciting is the addition of Wyvern riding to your offensive arsenal. Monster riding was first introduced in Monster Hunter 4, but it's had a significant shake-up in Rise. By performing a series of silkbind and aerial attacks, a monster will enter a mountable state that allows you to hop on their back and go for a ride. You can launch your helpless prey into walls to deal damage and put them in a down state that leaves them vulnerable for a time, or you can use them as a massive battering ram to attack other monsters. This is a tad cumbersome due to some stiff controls, but being able to ravage the monster you're hunting with another beast is a singular treat that adds a tinge of kaiju-esque action to the proceedings, not to mention the strategic considerations it introduces to each hunt. The monsters themselves consist of fan favorites such as Rathian, Diablos, and Puki, along with plenty of new monsters and a few surprises. Much like the Rampage, each of the new beasts are inspired by yokai and other legendary creatures from Japanese folklore. Going toe to toe with these intimidating beasts is an unmistakable core of Monster Hunter experiences, and Rise still feels like a distinctly Monster Hunter game, even if it's more of a fully fledged action title than any other entry in the series. This renewed focus doesn't diminish its layered RPG mechanics, nor does it dumb down on any single aspect of the hunt. The moment-to-moment combat is as impeccable as it's ever been,